करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै।
Recording in progress.
शांति शांति शांति। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Okay, so we are starting this class on the Nyaya Sutras. As those of you have joined earlier, they would know, but just for the sake of other new members, I'll just repeat in short what we are discussing. So Nyaya is basically logic. So the logic by which we understand any spiritual context or any worldly context also, all the rules are enumerated in Nyaya Sutras. So this is by Gautam Rishi, and Gautam Rishi has given us these. There are in total there are 10 chapters, or you can say 5 chapters with 2 sub-chapters each. So right now we are into the second chapter, part 2. So serially that would be the 4th chapter. So till now, second chapter, part 1, we are nearing the end. Sorry, no, we are towards the end of the second chapter, part 1. So that will be the third. So so what we have been studying so far in Nyaya logic. First, we study the 16 different categories, how we can understand all the topics of the world. So all those topics are enumerated in the first sutra itself: Praman, Prameya, Sanshaya, Prayojan, Drishtant, Siddhant, Avyava, Tarka, Nirnay, Vad, Jalp, Vitanda, Hetvabhas, Chal, Jati, Nigrah Sthananam, Tattva Jnanani, Shreya Sadhigam. You can download any book from the net. There are lots of available. If required, I can share. Manisha can share the link also on chat. So you guys have the book. So from there we have to understand out of the 16 categories, basically how we know things. So how we know things? Praman. Praman is the means of knowledge, right? So there are 2 ways in which Praman is defined. One is the means of knowledge is our own sense organs. The 5 sense organs are Pramanam. They are the ways of knowing the world. And secondly is through the secondary sources that we use outside our body. That is, we divide it into 4, which is the Pratyaksha Pramanam. Pratyaksha is direct knowledge. Then we have the Anuman Pramanam, or knowledge by inference. Then indirect knowledge. And then thirdly, we have the Upaman Pramanam, knowledge by comparison of 2 similar experiences or 2 similar observations. And then fourthly and last is the Shabda Pramanam, the Shastra. We take the Shastra as Pramanam. So in the first 2 chapters, the Pramanas have been defined clearly and their definitions have been given. And then in this chapter, there are whatever loopholes there might be possible in the Pramanas that has been discussed. So out of these loopholes, basically what are the flaws that are possible in the argument, that we discussed in a method which is used by the authors of our Shastras as the method of what we call the Purva Paksha. So what does Purva Paksha involve? Purva Paksha involves that any contrary arguments that are possible to the definition that has been given, they are examined and they are systematically demolished, or they are systematically answered or refuted. So in this way, any doubts in the mind of the student are removed. You can say some person outside is removing the doubts, is casting the doubts, or sometimes more accurately, you can say the author himself brings forward the doubts that are possible, and then he answers them, right? So a lot of systems in modern times, they have used those arguments of the Purva Paksha itself to put down our Shastras. But when we examine closely, all the arguments are answered in the Shastra itself. There are some more superficial arguments that are given, but those are always answerable if we put our mind to it, right? So first of the first three pramanas, objections were raised. We have seen the answer for that. So those three were for the three objections. The objections for the three pramanams: pratyaksha, then we have anuman and upman, and those were answered in this section. So now we are entering the part where the objections to the Shastra Pramanam or Shabda Pramanam are being raised. So we saw in the previous class also towards the end that we have certain objections that were raised about this one about the Shabda Pramanam, that is in the 58 and 59 Sutra. So we'll just refresh that. I'll bring it up on the screen, and this is the two sutras. So 58. So first was the 58th sutra, that is Tat Pramanyam Anrit Vyaghat Punarukta Doshebhyad. Some say that there are four kinds of faults that they can occur in the Veda. So these will not define here. We will define in the coming sutras where they are brought up, and then they are systematically answered. So, but still, what they say, the Veda, some say, is unreliable as it involves the fruits of untruth. Unrit. Unrit is falseness, something not in line with rhythm or the rhythm of the universe, something not in line with the truth. And then Vyaghat. Vyaghat is a contradiction. Something that you have said, but actually it does not make sense. Something opposite is also given to be true. And then Punarukti Doshebhya. Punarukti is considered as a serious flaw in a Shastram. Something that has been said, it need not be repeated. But sometimes that Punarukti is also necessary. Sometimes something very important needs to be emphasized in maybe different ways, or maybe the same sentence is emphasized so that the person doing that action does not forget in any case. So here, if we can quickly just understand about the Vedic structure, what the Vedas are. Basically, the four Vedas divided into the Mantra Bhag, the Brahmana Bhag, the Aranyaks, and the Upanishads, right? So most of them in the modern commentators, they divide these into the Veda Purva and Veda Anta. So Veda Anta they call the Upanishads, and the remaining three they call as the Veda Purva Bhag, that is the Mantra, Brahman, and Aranyaks, right? But actually, if you examine closely, you will see that when you are talking about Ved Purva, then Shankaracharya Bhagwan and all the other authors, they mention all these three, not all these three as the what they call the Ved Purva Bhaga, because they also give another name for that. What is another name for that? That is the Karma Kanda. So what is the Karma Kanda? Karma Kanda is basically a set or prescribed rule for doing a ritual. A ritual. किसे हम कर्म कांड करते हैं, यज्ञ करते हैं, हवन करते हैं. We do a yajna or a havan, homa. So when we do that yajna, certain rules are given how it is to be done and how that efficacy of that havan is to be completed. So in this way, when we study closely, then we will see actually it is the Brahman Bhag which we actually have to call the Veda Purva or the Karma Kanda. The first part, that is the Mantra Bhag, is actually the highest part. It contains magical verses where the mantras have multiple levels of meaning, and they have a meaning that will satisfy the karmic part, a meaning that will satisfy the upasana or bhakti part, and a meaning that will satisfy the jnana part. Every mantra. So if we take a actual process of reading the Vedic literature, then when we read the Vedic mantras, each mantra has a meaning of the karmic aspect. When we read the Brahmana Bhag, then we slowly understand how to analyze that mantra in a karmic aspect, and we will understand the karmic meaning of that mantra. Then similarly, when we go to the aranyak or the upasana part, then through that upasana, we are able to connect to higher forces, connect to the gods, connect to the higher beings. And when we do that, we are able to utilize their powers ourselves in our daily life. That is the purpose of upasana, in a always a positive sense of doing more good for the world. Right? So when we do that, to do that connection, it needs a lot of sadhana, a lot of meditation, lot of chanting, and all those processes are described in the Aranya. So when we do that actual process, then we will understand the karmic meaning, the upasana meaning of a Vedic word. The first part, the mantra bhag that I'm talking about, right? And then similarly, to understand the Jnana meaning of a Vedic verse, you have to go to the Upanishad. When we go to the Upanishad, then we slowly understand the Jnana meaning of any particular verse. Right? So in this way, we have to go sequentially. But as we said earlier also, there is a more simpler method. What is that method? When we just study first the literature superficially, and then we surrender to the highest power. When we surrender, then that power takes over, and then slowly all the meanings of the verses will come to us if we are very sincere in our surrender, if we don't let even a smallest amount of ego come in between, right? So that ego has to be totally demolished if we can understand the mantra bhag. So all of these objections that we are going to see that will come up about the Veda, they are basically objections about the Veda Brahman bhag, doing about the karma kanda, where certain prescriptions are given for doing an activity, a karma, which is basically called a havan, and those objections are given because there are so many rules. So some of those rules will seem to clash, and that is what is being repeated here. So that is what is being understood here. So I'll just get back to the text. I hope it is clear so far. Anyone wants to ask something? Okay, we can keep the questions for the end also. So 58 we have done. So when we go on to the 59th verse, so in the Nyaya Sutras, this part is analyzing the efficacy of a particular Vedic uh, activity. Yeah? So when we do a homa, what he's saying here is na karma kartri sadhan vaigunya. So he says there might be some verses that will promise you that something will happen when you do this sacrifice, but due to the karma, the kartri and the sadhan, due to their inefficiency, some defect, that promised result does not come about. So what is that promised result? Like someone will have this promise that through the putra kameshti yagya, a son will be born. So it will not always happen. So why does it say that? It says that because when we are doing that doing that homa, sometimes there is some defect in the karma. How we do that karma. So we saw all these. We saw different 9 different factors that for any action that you do, any karma that you do, it depends on a lot of factors. So all those factors are how intensely you do that karma, how much longer you do that karma, what are the materials that you use for the what we call the the homa samagri, the materials that we use for that havan, and then uh, the place where we do that, and so on. So all those factors are important. So any action that we do, what intent that we do, कौन से भाव से करते हैं हम, and what whom we offer it to, किसको अर्पण करके, to for the favor of which person, or by the blessings of which person we do, our elders and so on. So in this way, all these factors are very important for an activity to succeed. We see that in our daily lives also. So when we do something, it is not dependent on just one factor. There are many factors. So when any of those factors lapses, then that action is found to be defective. That action does not give the promised result, or maybe it will give the promised result later than when it was said. It may take time because क्योंकि हर फल को पकने में समय लगता है. Every fruit, for it to ripen, it has its own time period. So sometimes, like you provide good conditions, it ripens early. If you don't provide enough good conditions, it will take longer time, right? And so, karma kartri sadhana vaigunya. The gunas, the properties, are not right in that karma. They may occur in the karma itself, the action itself. They may occur in the kartri or the doer itself, or in the sadhana, the materials that the person is using to do a particular sacrifice, right? So in this way, karma kartri sadhana vaigunya. So now we move on to the next verse. So uh, अभ्युपेत्य काल भेदे दोष वचनात्. अभ्युपेत्य काल भेदे दोष वचनात्. So when we do an Vedic karma, then there might be some contradiction if there were alterations, abhyupetra. There is some kind of alteration or some change made, and a dosha vachana, some contradiction has to be there. So basically, what is being said here is that whenever we are doing a sacrifice, there are certain prescriptions regarding the kal bhed, the time when it is to be performed, and that kind of promise is made about those times when that action is to be done. Then sometimes the timing mentioned is different. So because of that, the action does not get done properly, right? So what is that? So we can see one of the examples that is given here in the text also and in other places is that like we do the Agnihotra. So Agnihotra karma is we do at what we call the Sandhya Kal. So Sandhya Kal is what? It is the union of day and night. So when we are given the Agnihotra karma, then we have to do it in the beginning, in the morning, at the time of the rising of the sun. And at sometimes some places it is given you have to do the Agnihotra at the evening, in the evening, at the time when the sun is about to set. So both times, sun about to rise and sun about to set, are different times. So how can you say that Agnihotra is to be done at two different times, right? So there the reasoning given is that some karmas have to be done at both times itself. And if you remember, if you know the actual process, then we will know that when we do the morning Agnihotra, then we do the two ahutis basically, which we say the first one is Surya Swaha, idam Surya, idam Namama, and then Prajapate Swaha, idam Prajapate, idam Namama. So we are basically offering two ahutis to Surya, the first one being Surya, because who is the Lord, he's waking up, he's just coming into being. And then the second is to Prajapati, the ruler of the masses, the one who gives all the people in the universe their energy, their power. So through Prajapati and Surya, we give our ahuti. So what is basically an ahuti? We give our offering to that, we give our surrender to that power, that may that power guide us. So once we let that power guide us, it lets us do our jobs with the maximum efficiency. And similarly, the sun, because it is Sandhya, and Sandhya most people understand as evening in Hindi, but actually Sandhya means the union point of day and night. So that union point is twice, in the morning and the evening. So evening also there is a Sandhya Upasana. So evening you are supposed to do that, and then in the noon also some people do it, because when the sun is at its highest point and the transition from the low to the high point. So that is the third point. So basically the two ones that are given in the Shastra, the evening one, evening is again there the ahuti is given to Agnaya Swaha, idam Agnaya, idam Namama, and the second ahuti is to Prajapati himself. So there the ahuti changes to Agni, because there the sun is about to set, and the lesser light of the sun, Agni, which is his, you can say, avatar on Prithvi, is Agni is the bearer of that light of the sun on the earth after when he sets, right? So there Agni is offered to. So in this way, what we call a contradiction is actually not a contradiction. It is basically what we call Kala Bhede, due to the difference in times that is mentioned for both the sacrifices. So that means that if it is said that Agnihotra is to be done in the morning, or if again somewhere it is said Agnihotra is to be done in the evening, then both are correct, and I repeat this for all Shastric injunctions. Whenever we don't understand something in the Shastra, then we should not quickly jump to the conclusion that it is wrong, right? It will always have a correct answer, correct understanding or a correct perspective in another position. It might be another time, it might be another space, it might be even another realm, right? So, like if you are talking about Vaisheshik, it is analyzing the materials at the micro level, Paramanu, the lowest level, the smallest level. Then again, Sankhya, it is examining the materials at the macro level, at the Prakriti level, at the Srishti level. So both are different. So they will say some things that might appear contradicting, but actually they are applying it to different levels. That is the only difference. So that is why all our Shastras, there is nothing that never can be anything wrong in them. It is basically our understanding that has to be corrected to bring us into line with the Shastric injunction, right? So this is the simple one about the timing of. Then Anuvad Upapattehe Cha. So Anuvad is basically in English you say tautology or a what do you call a useless repetition. Sometimes that is uh, uh, something repeated, but it is not required, right? So here what is being said here is that anuvad, there is no tautology because reinculcation is of advantage. Anuvad upapattehe cha. So when we say anuvad, then in certain times there is there might appear to be some repetition in the Vedic verses. So that repetition is not necessary. That is the objection of the Purva Paksha, right? That repetition is not necessary. So in this, to answer this, he gives the next three verses as the answer for this kind of anuvad uh, deficiency. So what is the first one? In the 62nd sutra. So what does he say? Vakya vibhagasya cha arthagrahanat. So firstly, you have to understand that sometimes while a repetition occurs, then it is due to the Vakya Vibhag uh, Arthagrahana. So whenever there is a sentence in the Vedic verses, then that sentence is basically to be seen as having different partitions. Every sentence is divided. So if I give you the structure of a Vedic mantra, then there are no full stops or commas in a Vedic mantra actually, because it is oral. It is oral. But how do we understand that? Later times when you have written it down, we can put down those commas. So because of that, we can give a space and then we'll understand. So how does this work in regard to the objection that is being raised? So when we say to someone, go, go. So is that a useless repetition? No, it means go, comma, go, right? So that comma we are not able to read there. It is not mentioned actually in the text, but while chanting, that pause is there. So Vakya Vibhagasya, the Vakya has been cut into pieces. So because of divided into pieces. So that division creates an emphasis. So for emphasis, certain repetitions are there. What is the emphasis? Jaldi jao, jao, jaldi jao. Go, quickly go. So go, quickly go is what is being meant when go is repeated twice. So that is where we actually see that kind of repetition in the Shastras, and that Shastra, and it carries a certain meaning, a certain purpose. It is never useless. Whatever the repetition is in Shastra, it is never of any kind of it can never be purposeless, which is mentioned here in the objection sutra, the previous one, where it is said that abhyupetya, that is this kind of thing is with a fault. Vakya vibhagasya cha arthagrahana is the first answer to the objection. And then we'll go into the next one. I'm going through this quickly, very simple ones, not very detailed explanations are required, and not examples are also not needed. So Vakya vibhagasya cha arthagrahana. So you have to mentally put a exclamation or a comma or any kind of punctuation mark and then you will get the real import, the real meaning. आपको मतलब समझ आएगा कि क्यों वो repeat किया गया, why it has been decided. So it is necessary to divide the Vedic speech into classes based on special characters. Basically, you have to punctuate the words. That is why that repetition, then only will it appear to make sense. Then the next one is the there are different categories in a Vedic words, different categories which create a certain kind of, there are certain reasons behind those categories, and that creates what might appear to us a flaw, as a flaw, but it is not actually a flaw. So what are those categories? So he says Vidyartha Anuvada Vachana Viniyoga. So if you split it up, Vidhi, Arthavad, Anuvad, Vachan, Viniyoga. So in the Veda, there is a Vedic speech is based on the principle of injunction, persuasion, and re-inculcation. So Vidhi and Arthavad and Anuvad Vachan. So these are the Anuvad Vachan is single word. So Anuvad Vachan, these are the three kinds of Vedic sentences. Vidhi, Arthavad, and Anuvad. And so because of that, we have to understand that whatever might not appear correct to us is how can it be correct. So what are these three? I'll not enumerate here. It is given up ahead. So Vidhi, what is Vidhi? Vidhi Vidhayakaha. So Vidhi Vidhayaka. What is Vidhi? An injunction which exhorts us to adopt a certain course of action. So if we use a Sanskrit word, then for any kind of with any kind of verb, we have different verb forms, right? So we have different verb forms. So one of them is Vidhiling. Vidhiling. So that Vidhiling, what does it say? It says you do something. You should do something, right? So if you say Gachati, Gachati means he goes, someone goes. And if you say Gach, Gach means you should go. You should go, right? So that is what is called a Vidhi Vakya or Vidhi Shabd. So in that a certain injunction is given. So a lot of Vedic verses, that there might be certain repetition in that Vedic verses, because that is saying something about a certain thing that you must do, a vidhi that must be done, and that is very important for you. So it will repeat that. It will repeat that word twice, that you must do this, you must do this. So because it is very important. So Vidhi Vakya is one of the important parts of any Ved Vakya or Brahman Bhag Vakya, where any injunction is given and that has to be done. So like we are given a vakya where we are doing how to do a homa. So there we are given in the beginning, you must chant a Shanti part. So it will say that the Shanti part is a vidhi. It is a necessary part of the structure of that ritual. So unless you bring peace to the area where you are starting that. So whenever we do a class also, we do that Om Shanti Shanti, we do the Shanti part, right? So we have to satiate, or we have to calm down the gods who are around us, so that they might not disturb us. They will be benevolent towards us. Yes, so they will calm down our thoughts. So they bring a certain peace into our activity, so that there is no disturbance. Yeah. So because the devas are in charge of a lot of forces. So if there is Indra, then he is actually, in the Vedic sense, he is the god of Viveka. But Vivek is what? Vivek brings calmness to your mind, right? But what does Vivek also do? It gives you a certain method of procedure. So if you look at it from the adhyatmic level, then he is Viveka. But if you look at it from the Adidevik level, so then there he is the god of rain, the god of thunder. So there he has certain powers which can calm your Viveka and also disturb it, both ways. So in that power that is there with Indra, you have to pray to him, to propitiate him, to satisfy him, to surrender to him, so that when he is present with you in the Havan, in the Homa, it does not get disturbed. So he is one of the main gods. In most of the Vedic processes, Indra will always be there. So that procedure for doing a Vedic sacrifice you have to start with a Shanti part. Or in the middle also, there are different injunctions about how a certain Vedic sacrifice is to be done, and they will involve the number of priests that are supposed to do that. They will involve how the husband and wife should sit in the havan. So the wife should sit on the left side always of the man, and the person who is doing the homa, the yajman, he should be doing the offering of the ghee, and so on. So all these are vidhis. All these vidhis are given there, and they are many times repeated in the Veda. So because they are repeated, then the person is very aware. So some lot of things happen. Sometimes a teacher will call you, even call your name. So someone will say Manisha, someone will say George, Rekha, Smriti. So they you might not hear the first time, and they might repeat. So when it repeats, then it strikes your mind, or you don't forget. Or a lot of times something is taught to you. When it is repeated, then it sticks in your mind. So that is the purpose of the vidhi vakya, right? So next one. Then we have arthavad. What is arthavad? These are all necessary procedures by which whatever is taught in the Veda it can be absorbed and retained by the mind. So even if there is repetition, then the repetition has a purpose. So what is this arthavad? Stuti, Ninda, Parakriti, Purakalpa, Iti. Right. So in this there is stuti. There is a praise of someone. Then Ninda. There might be reverse something, blame also. And then Parakriti. So you are persuading something through his, you're giving a warning, Parakriti. And Purakalpa, you're giving some kind of prescription how something is to be done. So something you saw Vidhi and Purakalpa slightly similar, but the difference is in a Vidhi something it should be done. And Purakalpa, this is how it can be. So that is the difference. Slight small difference, but still it is there. So all these are called Arthavada. So Arthavada, basically if you read some of the Puranas also, what we will find is there is a section that is called the Mahatmya. Mahatmya mein kya hota hai? What happens in the Mahatmya? The benefits of reading that Shastra itself are given. That if you read this, it will give you this and this, it will give you so many riches, or it will give you moksha, liberation. So a lot of good things are said there, right? And so that Mahatmya is something which you can say it encapsulates, or it encapsulates in very short the total intent of the Shastra. So जब हम कोई शास्त्र पढ़ने लगते हैं, whenever हम we read a शास्त्र, तो उसमें हमारा interest बना रहे, so that we can stick to that and we can absorb it properly. There is a method, there is a technique used in which certain repetitions come. That is called Arthavad. Arthavad use करते हैं. तो Arthavad में क्या होता है? What happens in Arthavad? Stuti is done. So a lot of praise is done about the Shastra, that this thing, if you do this thing, then it will benefit you in this way. It will benefit you mentally. It will benefit you physically. It will benefit you spiritually, and so on. All these injunctions are given when you are doing a certain ritual. So because of that, certain ritual when it is being done, certain study also when it is being done, there is an Arthavada section. So there Stuti is done. Then again Ninda. What is Ninda? If you don't do this, if you don't do this, or if you do this in the wrong manner, then there will be certain losses to you. You might lose this, you might lose respect, you might lose some kind of monetary things, you might lose your spiritual progress, and so on. These are said. So Ninda bhi hoti hai wahan pe. Sometimes in the positive way, sometimes in the negative way. It is mentioned that if you read this Shastra, then you will have these kinds of losses. So like if Shani Dev is being talked about. So Shani Dev, if you don't do that Shani Dev puja, then you will have a lot of physical or material losses in your life. So if you want that material progress, you have to propitiate Shani Dev. So in this way, all these are given in the Shastram. And then Parakriti. So because there are certain warnings given. So in a Shastram, whenever any ritual is any ritual or any book is being given to us for reading in the Mahatmya section, there will always be a certain prescription will be given that sorry, a warning will be given that you should do it in certain and certain method, and in this way it will help you, and you should always do it in a correct manner, otherwise will come in, otherwise this will impact you in the wrong way. Something similar to Ninda, but slightly different, where here it will tell you that this should be done in the proper way, otherwise this Shastra will not help you in progressing further. So warnings are given, warning signs are given. Practice this daily, otherwise it will not help you. Practice this in the morning, or practice in the morning or evening. So all these things are given. So warnings are given so that you actually do the diligent study of the Shastra. Because a lot of times we do a particular study and then we lose track of it, and then we move on to something else. Something else catches our attention. So for something to hold our attention to, all these tricks are used by the Shastra. All these correct tricks are used by the Shastra, right? So everything is taught to us through a method of what we call a ritual. So you must have been reading about this the Shitla Mata Vrat. So Shitla Mata Vrat, again, that what happens? It happens on 15th of March. Why? On that you are supposed to eat what we call basa, stale food. So you cook food one day before and you eat the next day. So what happens? This is the last day you are supposed to eat stale food. Why? Because after this you have to cook every day and eat. Because when you do that, the next what is coming, the season, summer season. So summer season is coming, food gets stale very quickly. So you should not eat stale food. So ये जो आगे के महीने 6 महीने you are आपको fresh खाना ही खाना, you cannot eat. So that is the last day you can eat previous day's food. सर्दियों में हम लोग पहले दिन का खाना खा लेते हैं. So all these are taught through examples, rituals, and through the Mahatmya, all the things that we are supposed to do and not do. So in this way is the final part of it, what we call the Pura Kalpa. So Pura Kalpa, something that is a prescription that is given to us. Pura, before, Kalpa, something happens, before something occurs in time. So whenever before something can happen, there has to be a method given. So if there are some medicines that are given to us for us to as a preventive medicine for a disease. So if you are taking your vitamins, if you are taking certain energy tonic, something to make you hungry so that you can eat properly. So all these are what we call preventive medicines. When the actual sickness happens, then you have take a different category of medicine. Those are the ones that are going to treat the sickness, but there are certain preventive ones. So Pura Kalpa will tell you that whatever prescription you have to do, whatever things you have to do in your life, so that this thing will not impact your spiritual, material, etc. progress in a negative way. So for you to escape from that ill effects, that repetition is coming again. So what was the main topic? That there are certain repetitions in the Vedas. कोई चीज को एक बार से ज्यादा बार कहा जाता है. So when something is repeated, then why it is repeated? One of these reasons is this, because there might be some prescription that is important for you, so that you might not miss it. So all these, which also all the four that we have seen right till now, coming under Arthavada. So all these four are effectively repetitions: Stuti, Ninda, Parakriti, and Purakalpa. All these four are means of persuasion, so that you stick to your study, or you stick to the ritual, and then when you do that, then you will be able to benefit the most. So for maximum benefit, there is a certain repetition, right? So then we go on to the next one. So Anuvad, basically. So what is Anuvad? 2166 Vidhi Vihitasya Anuvachanam. So re-inculcation is the repetition of that which has been enjoined by an injunction, right? So vidhi vihitasya. So with whatever is said by a vidhi, and then that is then that is repeated, that is called anuvad. So reinculcation may consist of repetition of an injunction or the repetition of that which has been enjoined. The first is called verbal reinculcation and the second objective reinculcation. So in the Veda, there is reinculcation, as in the ordinary use there is repetition, non-eternal, not eternal. So basically what is being said here, whenever we do a Vedic verse reading, then in that verse reading, first is a method is said to you, vidhi, and then that method is again repeated. So what was mentioned in the previous sutra also, that then that repetition stands to what does it what does it help us to do? It is enjoined by an injunction. It helps us to strengthen our view, strengthen our thought process by going into that vidhi with a very fixed mind. We should not change our mind. So that is the repetition part, right? So this completes the answer to that in the 61st sutra. Whatever was objection was raised, why are there repetition? अच्छे से बैठ जाए. So basically the what objection was raised was कि वेदों में कोई चीज बार बार क्यों कही जाती है? Why something is repeated? So repeated is answered in this. Yes. Okay, so we have seen the objections that are answered to the repetition. And then what are the next? 67 sutra. Na anuvad punaruktayoho visheshah shabdabhyasa upapatti.
You were saying why it is repeated in the text.
It is repeated in the text because repetition strengthens our memory and strengthens our ability to do that.
Yeah.
We do not waver from that.
Yeah.
So that is the main reason for repetition. Or as we said in the first one also, that where we have to do something quickly. Go. दो बार go बोला तो go quickly. So that is what is said. Urgency जो signify करता है. So urgency is what it signifies. So then na anuvad punaruktayoho visheshah shabdabhyas upapatti. So punarukti, the repetition is there. There is some say no difference between reinculcation and tautology, as there is in either case a repetition. So here what is someone is saying is, what they are saying, another objection is that there is no difference between the repetition and tautology is something repeated uselessly. So anuvad. So anuvad क्या है? कुछ भी आपने बोला, दो बार बोल रहे, it is useless. Same thing you are saying. So he is saying that both these are same only. I don't understand. You told me that something is repeated for emphasis. So I want to be clear about why that repetition, दोबारा क्यों उसको बोला जाता है. So for that is answered. I explained earlier also, but here it is given again. Okay, so you can see here. So शीघ्र इतर गमन.
Recording in progress.
I think disconnected for a second. Okay, so the 68th sutra, शीघ्रतर गमन उपदेशवत abhyas sannivesha. So there is a difference because reinculcation serves some useful purpose. Example, a command to go faster. So what I was saying earlier also. So in tautology is a useless repetition, and then when we say then there is a reinculcation or something which is being said, punarukti. So punarukti is something repeated, and it can be in two ways, useless or useful. So how? Because शीघ्रतर गमन उपदेश. शीघ्रतर गमन उपदेश. So what I said, go on signifies go faster. So if someone is saying go twice, then that means he is saying not just go, but it means go urgently. You are being needed right now. You go faster. So शीघ्र गमन. Shigra gaman. You have to go quickly. So just go will say go in a normal sense. Repeating will increase the speed. So in this way, that objection of the difference between what we call anuvad and punarukti, that difference is specified. In anuvad, something is repeated uselessly. It does not have a basic difference. Both the words mean the same, and they are just there because someone maybe forgot to remember that he has already said this. It happens to a lot of us. हम कोई बात बोल देते हैं, फिर सोचते हैं कि नहीं हमने तो बोला था क्या, नहीं फिर then we say it again. So शास्त्र it cannot have that fault. शास्त्र में वो गलती नहीं हो सकती. शास्त्र cannot have that fault. So what it will do is, if it's repeating that, it means that some stress is there. So earlier we saw vidhi and all those with the part of the previous section. So where we saw arthavad. So there arthavad, stuti, ninda, all that is mentioned. But then simple repetition also, if there is just simple repetition of two words, then there is a certain sense of urgency that has to be attached to that action. Certain set of urgency or certain sense of quickness. So that is how it has to be interpreted. And then we go on to the 69th verse, sutra. Mantra Ayurved pramanyat vat cha tat pramanyat apt pramanyat. So what does it say? Mantra Ayurved pramanyat. So mantras, whatever is said in the Ved mantra and whatever is said in the what we call the medical treatises Ayurveda, but in a general way, all the sciences where certain steps are given for doing a certain kind of action, we accept them as pramanya. We accept them as true. We accept them as something that is said there is going to benefit us. So tat pramanyat apta pramanyat. So the Veda, by that apta praman, the Veda is reliable like the spell and medical science because of the reliability of their authors. So whatever is said in the Veda is how is it available to us? It is available through the rishis. So what are the rishis? The rishis are the ones who have heard the eternal truths internally. अंदर से उन्होंने आप्त वाणी को, वेद वाणी को सुना. They were able to listen to that, and then they wrote it down or they taught it to their students to repeat. So that apt vani has to be transmitted. And we saw earlier also that how is it verified? That all the rishis heard the same thing. So that is how it is proved that the same words were heard by different rishis. They all have reached that highest stage. So they were able to listen to the Vedic verses and write them down or teach them to the students. And so they are aptapurush. They are people who are realized souls. So we have to trust what has been said by them. Just like he says that spell and medical science, mantra or Ayurveda. So mantra basically here what we are talking about is Atharva Ved. So in Atharva Ved a lot of prescriptions are given, a lot of medical remedies for coming over ghosts and all those bad spirits, all those are given. And then Ayurveda, remedies for sickness, all the kinds of disease. And so those we trust. All of them we trust. Why? Because they are written by reliable authors who have tried and tested. Right? So why do we accept a scientist? Why do we accept the view or value of a scientist? Why? Because we know that he has, whenever he has put forward a statement or put forward a thesis, it is examined thoroughly through trial, experiment and error. So he has उसने पूरा अच्छे से उसको verify किया तभी वो डालेगा. And it is verified by his peers also. उसके साथ और लोग भी verify करते हैं. So whatever is said by those people is it is experimented on in different situations, and once it satisfies all the conditions, then only it is said, yes, this is a universal truth. This is written down. So we trust those people because they have gone through a certain process. वो किसी एक विधि के अनुसार चले हैं. They have gone through a certain process, so that is why we trust them. So because we trust them, we know that what is mentioned in their verse is true. We accept that. Similar thing applies to the Veda also. We trust the words of the rishis. We know that whatever they have written down is verified through multiple rishis through their experiences and their collation of experiences. Sometimes there are variations, but we can even understand those variations as enumerating the same truth in different ways. So we say in the Veda also that the truth has multiple faces. It can be said in different ways. So because of that, there are different rishis can say the same thing in different ways. So because of that, the Vedic truths coming from those rishis who were in the realized state, we accept that they are true, or they are to be accepted as right. So in this way, the Vedic truths are accepted as coming from a reliable person, and that is why we trust them. Reliability of their authors. Tat pramanyat. So in this way we understand. So today I think we have entered the end of this chapter. So I think it's not enough time to begin a new chapter. So we'll just give a short overview. So what we are saying is, up till now we have examined the objections that are raised to the four pramanams. चार तरीके हैं, there are four ways of knowing something. चार तरह के प्रमाण है. So all those four we studied their definition earlier. So we have the first of all is the pratyaksha praman, anuman, upaman, and shabda praman. And then the objections to the four pramanams were given, and those objections were answered. कि उसमें क्या गलती हो सकती है वो पूछा गया, and then उस गलती का वो गलती नहीं है इसका आंसर दिया. So whatever the mistakes that were or the errors that were supposed to be there in the pramanams, or the definition of the pramanams rather, those definitions are clarified. So now in this next section we have a few new pramanams that are being enumerated, and they say that you are talking about only four pramanams. There can be more. So in the first verse itself it will be said chatushtam, aiya, arthapatti, sambhava, asambhava, all these four. So there are atiya, the words of an itihas purush, Athya's figures like Rama, Krishna, and so on. Why do we not accept their words as pramanam? Then arthapatti, to infer the cause from the effect. Then sambhav, something that is possible, or you can say rumor. And then abhav, so abhav is non-existence. So all these four are accepted as pramanams in some other systems also. They are there in even Vedanta. They are in some of them are in certain parts of Buddhism also. They are used. So all of these are also pramanams. But what does Nyaya say? Nyaya will say that all of these are there. They are also means of knowledge, but we can classify them under as subheadings under the remaining first four. अब उन्हीं चारों में ही इनको भी add कर सकते हैं. So that is what will be the process that will be followed. So this will go into the in the next class. So we have finished this second chapter part 1. So second chapter part 2, or sequentially the fourth chapter, we will begin in the next class. So I hope today's class was clear. Any questions anyone wants to ask, we can have a quick 1 or 2 minutes. Anyone, any doubts or anything, maybe something that I was not clear about? Manisha, George, Rekha ji. All clear? We have a group of
nothing from me.
Okay, good, very good. Okay, I think it was very simple basically. So we just expanded on what's there in the sutra. So okay, so we'll wind up for today. Ji, Rekha ji, boli.
This was the first.
Yes.
First time I'm attending a Nyaya Sutra class.
Yeah, I know it will be a bit tough. So in the between, yeah.
But it was nice. I mean, I'll have too many doubts at this point.
Okay.
So I will wait. I will attend whichever class I can.
Okay.
And then sometime I will raise some
Sure.
questions. Because it is too early for me. For the
I understand.
Obviously, I will take my time. So whenever I can, I will attend. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much
for making the effort to do this.
Thank you. You can do one thing. The classes are there on Clubhouse. If you are on Clubhouse, you can join there and you can even listen to the recordings there. Or if you want, we can share the recordings with you also, whichever way you like. So that way you can maybe go through the previous classes, or you can keep listening. Maybe I like to repeat things. I like to cover whatever has been said previously, so you can maybe catch from there also, right? Okay then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you everyone. Thank you for coming. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful day and a very good week ahead. I hope to see you all in the next class. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.